Well, thanks for joining us today. This is our information session on the Wesleyan Church, which is very important to us as admissions counselors because Wesleyan is in our name. So that causes questions for a lot of people. What is Wesleyan? Plus, roughly about 19% of our campus, our students here, are Wesleyan. So a lot of this information is familiar to them, and some of the financial aid information affects them directly. So a little bit brief history on the Wesleyan Church, and more specifically John Wesley, who our church is named after. He was born in 1703 in England and died in 1791. So we're talking a few hundred years ago, and where this idea of Wesleyanism, Methodism, actually came from. He never wanted to create a separate church. He always wanted to stay within the Church of England. So he was an Anglican priest, and that was his trade. That was what his father was as well. So that was his passion, his desire. He never wanted to form a separate church. It was actually people that came after him that sort of formed these Methodist groups, which eventually became the church itself. Charles Wesley, another name that you will hear from time to time. Charles was his brother. He was a prolific hymn writer. So you will see his name in hymnals and in songbooks everywhere. A couple of his songs, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, probably one that you've heard of. Christ the Lord is risen today, oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing. So a lot of music within church music, even inspiration for those writing today would come from Charles Wesley. So that was a name that you may hear or see coming up. So actually, when the Methodists sort of formed their group here in the United States, there was a smaller group that was against slavery. So during the Civil War time, when a lot of tension between the North and the South, the Wesley Methodist connection actually separated from the Methodist Episcopal Church over the issue of slavery. That happened in 1842. So that group of Wesleyan Methodists separated from the Methodist Church at that point because the Methodist Church was not taking a strong stance against slavery and really saw that abolition was a very important cause for them to keep up. The Wesleyan Chapel in Seneca Falls, New York, actually hosted the first Women's Rights Convention in 1848. It's also known as the Seneca Falls Convention. It is commemorated by the Women's Rights National Historical Park, and Luther Lee, who was the general president of the Wesleyan Methodist Connection, actually preached at the first ordination service for a woman in the United States. So big things in the start of the Wesleyan Methodist Church were women's rights, ordination of women, which is still very strong today in the Wesleyan Church, as well as social issues in regards to slavery and other things like that. Fast forward quite a bit. The merger of the Wesleyan Methodist Church and the Pilgrim Holiness Church occurred in 1968 on the campus of Anderson University. Those two bodies came together at Anderson, and out of that formed the Wesleyan Church. So the Wesleyan Church as we know it has only been in existence since 1968, but comes from a longer history within the Wesleyan Methodist connection of churches, as well as the Pilgrim Holiness Church. Currently, we have 1,654 Wesleyan churches in the United States. Over 231,000 people attend each week a Wesleyan church. The largest church in the Wesleyan Church in the United States is 12 Stone Church in Georgia. And according to the latest stats for this past church year, their average attendance was over 16,000 each week. So it is one of the larger churches not only in the Wesleyan Church, but in the United States. Now, worldwide, as we look at the Wesleyan Church, and Tony will deal with this more specifically with international students, but we have over 5,800 Wesleyan churches and over 500,000 people attending worldwide a Wesleyan church. A sort of personal connection to the Wesleyan Church. My great-great-grandfather joined the Wesleyan Methodist Church in 1892. So I have been a Wesleyan for many, many years, many generations. So that is my connection with the Wesleyan Church itself. But you will get a question many, many times of what is Wesleyan? How are you similar? How are you different? The easy similarities that will work would be Free Methodist, Nazarene, Church of God in Anderson, as well as Christian Missionary Alliance. Those are some sister denominations that we work very closely with. Even merger has been talked with those denominations on a number of occasions. Nothing ever came out of it, but at least we're close enough that we can have those talks. Some of the key traits to Wesleyanism is it's a very optimistic church in a variety of ways. The first area of optimism is that we believe that all people can be saved. Not just a select few, not the elect, but that all people have the opportunity to accept Christ and to accept that free gift of salvation. The next area of optimism within the Wesleyan Church is our idea of grace and our idea of living a holy life. That we believe that God wants us to live holy lives, so that is something that we can actually attain here on earth, but it is a work of God to do that within us. So you will hear the term sanctification or even entire sanctification thrown out every once in a while. And that's really living a life that is pleasing to God and honors those around you. So purity of heart, different things like that. Now, within the Wesleyan Church, there are different views on that. Some people believe that it is a one-time, instantaneous, you're entirely sanctified. Others, which would be a little bit more mainstream, believe that it is a journey. It's a process of growth in your faith. Also, I have before you a Wesleyan Traits handout. This walks through some of those things a little bit more particularly, but also gives some of the key traits of the Wesleyan Church itself. You also see on the back is women in ministry. That's another big key part of the Wesleyan Church itself, as well as some social issues and other things like that. So this is a great resource to have to be familiar with the Wesleyan Church, especially when people ask, what is the Wesleyan Church? How does that tie into who we are as an institution? The other thing I have before you is a Wesleyan Church district map for the United States. A lot of you will be working in territories where it's good to know what district you're in for the Wesleyan Church. That way you know some of the key players, district superintendents, district youth presidents, to know how to contact churches, more specifically youth groups, how to get into those teen camps and things like that. Another question that you will have in regards to the Wesleyan Church is, I've heard of Ohio Wesleyan or Kentucky Wesleyan, Illinois Wesleyan. Those schools are not affiliated or even owned by the Wesleyan Church. We have 5 schools that are owned and operated by the Wesleyan Church. Indiana Wesleyan, of course, the first and premier university. Houghton College in New York. It used to be Bethany Bible College, but it's now Kingswood University up in New Brunswick, Canada. Southern Wesleyan in South Carolina, and Oklahoma Wesleyan in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Those are the 5 institutions that are owned and operated by the Wesleyan Church. Now, when people ask about those other institutions, historically, they were connected with the Methodist Church and would come from a Methodist tradition. Many of them are now secular schools. And especially some of those that are closest to us, like Illinois Wesleyan, make that distinction that we are nothing like Illinois Wesleyan and some of those other schools, because they may be more familiar with those and not us, and there is a huge distinction in that. So in regards to us as a university and how the denomination plays into who we are owned by the denomination. We are not just affiliated with the Wesleyan Church, but we are owned by the denomination. All of our property is deeded to the Wesleyan Church. So it is not sub-owned by this corporation or this body, the institution. Another key thing to understand is that a portion of all tithes and offerings collected in every Wesleyan church every Sunday is set aside for our educational institutions. It's actually 3.25% of every dollar goes back to one of the 5 schools and helps supporting that. That helps us as an institution in regards to some of the financial aid that we're able to offer specifically Wesleyan students and how the whole structure works together for those students. Now, our Board of Trustees here at Indiana Wesleyan actually answers to the general board of the Wesleyan Church. Those individuals are approved by the general board of the Wesleyan Church to be trustees here at Indiana Wesleyan University. Also on our board here at Indiana Wesleyan are many of the district superintendents that are part of the Wesleyan Church as well. So there will be ones located primarily in our area, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, all 3 of the districts here in Indiana, as well as Ohio. So there is direct contact with the Wesleyan Church on a daily basis with our institution. So it's very important for all of us to really understand that and to be able to articulate that when people do have questions about Indiana Wesleyan. The administration here at the university, according to the guidelines by the denomination, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, shall be a member of the Wesleyan Church as well. And all the full-time administrators reporting to the president or Chief Executive Officer must be members of the Wesleyan Church. So there are some exceptions that come into play depending on who the individual is, but most of the hierarchy here have to be members of the Wesleyan Church to be able to serve in their position. Faculty is another portion that is directly tied to the Wesleyan Church. The majority of full-time faculty members shall be, according to the guidelines of the Wesleyan Church, members of the Wesleyan Church. And in no case should there be less than 1/3 of our faculty that are members of the Wesleyan Church. That is to ensure the fidelity to the denomination and to make sure that those Wesleyan principles invade who we are as an institution. It is even further for undergraduate religion faculty. Let's see, at least 2/3 of undergraduate religion faculty are supposed to be members of the Wesleyan Church. So that's a very key, important part of who we are. Now, parents will also ask, so do you shove Wesleyanism down our students' throats? No, that is not the case. Many students, other than attending Indiana Wesleyan University, will not see or feel the effects of the Wesleyan Church. In the Bible classes, the theology class, it's not Wesleyan that they will be coming into contact with. But they will see the effect of the university working with the denomination as a whole. Even within the Christian Ministries program, now our Christian ministry majors and youth ministry majors, they are ordination track programs for the Wesleyan Church. That is not to say that other denominations can be a part of that. We work well with the Nazarenes and the Free Methodists and all of that stuff, and that fulfills many of their ordination requirements within their denominations. More specifically, within those programs, there is a Wesleyan history and church discipline class that those other denominations can substitute with their own church history and their own polity as an independent study to understand that a little bit more fully. So even within Christian ministries, we are not shoving people toward the Wesleyan Church or having them serve in the Wesleyan Church. Now, practically, when it comes to students feeling the effects of the Wesleyan Church, if you are a Wesleyan student, right off the bat with financial aid, you will see some things show up there. The first thing is the Wesleyan Student Grant, which is $1,000 to all students who are Wesleyans. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you attend a Wesleyan church, you will see that on your financial aid package. For those Wesleyan students that live out of the state of Indiana, there's an additional $2,000 that they get right off the bat. That, in essence, is to help offset the loss of state aid. It's not a dollar for dollar, but it is to help cover the loss of state aid for students to go out of state. Church matching is a differentiation between Wesleyan and non-Wesleyan as well. Wesleyan students get up to $1,500 in church matching, as opposed to non-Wesleyan churches, it's only $1,000. So that's a little added bonus for students in that. There's also the John Wesley Scholarship that students can apply for. We will send out the application for that, as well as a recommendation for their pastor to fill out. Students that at minimum they'll get $1,000, sometimes more, up to $3,000 or more dollars for that John Wesley Scholarship. The other thing is the Wesleyan Pastor Dependent Grant. Now, this can be a sticky issue for them to understand and for us to really articulate, because as it states here on the website and in the brochure, it is up to 50% of tuition that we will guarantee. Now, that includes federal aid, state aid, and institutional aid, but we guarantee up to 50%. They can receive more, and there are other items that are stackable on top of that in regards to athletic scholarships and the such. But to help the parents and the students to really understand that we guarantee up to 50% of tuition, not tuition, room, and board, just tuition for their students to attend here. Really familiarizing yourself with this brochure will be the best way to answer some of these questions. And there are more things in here in regards to Campus Challenge, Wesleyan Bible Bowl. We won't answer those questions as much. Those will probably be more specifically financial aid questions, but to articulate some of those things. Campus Challenge, and you will see this from time to time, is basically a talent competition for the Wesleyan Church. Students can start participating in that at the age of 12 and can earn money up until they enter college. So anyone with a superior rating within their competition receives money. It is not just the first, second, and third, but anyone with a superior rating receives money for that. And students can bring in thousands and thousands of dollars if they start with this competition. I actually met with a student a couple of years ago that through TNT, or the Campus Challenge and Wesleyan Bible Bowl, she had about $15,000 that she was going to bring in. And that is stackable money. That stacks on top of any other aid that they would get. Now, that money is divided between all 4 years that the student would be here, so it's not $15,000 right off of the top for the first year. That is spread out between all of that. Now, for those of you who are freshman counselors, you will probably be in contact with some of your Wesleyan churches. They will probably invite you to teen camps, district retreats, a wide variety of things that we encourage you guys to be a part of, so that we have a presence in those churches and that they know who we are. Every couple of years, there's also a regional and international youth convention. There's one actually coming up here in December, right here in our backyard in Indianapolis. So that's a big time where all of the Wesleyan churches send their teams to be a part of that. There'll be 4,000 or 5,000 Wesleyan teams there, which is a great recruiting opportunity for all of us. And then some of the things that we have here on campus specifically, Fusion and Never Too Young. Granted, you do not have to be Wesleyan to come to those, but when we send out the mailings to those, we send it to every Wesleyan church so that those students have the opportunity to come and be a part of our campus. So those are some of the ways that we are a little bit more proactive in what we do to recruit Wesleyan students. We would love to have that Wesleyan student count above 19%. Is actually lower than what it has been in years previous. And these are students that are easy for us to reach out to because for some there's a natural connection between the pastor, a youth pastor, for them to be here, a way for us to build a bridge to recruit them a little bit more effectively. So do you guys have any questions, things that you're wondering about the Wesleyan Church, how we work as an office, how the denomination works, the university?